All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're tackling a real paradox in the crypto world, and it's all about XRP. So many people are asking, why is this asset, with all this attention, so, boring when it comes to price? We're going to unpack a really compelling theory from our source material that asks a provocative question. What if that stability isn't a flaw? What if it's actually its greatest strength? And this right here, this is the question that drives so many people nuts. You see other cryptos going on these wild roller coaster rides, and then you look at XRP, and it just feels stuck in first gear. It's flat, it's range-bound, and according to the thesis we're exploring today, this boredom is actually doing something important. It's filtering out all the people who are just here for a quick thrill.
So our source material really hinges on this one core idea. It argues that if you're watching the daily price chart, you're looking at the wrong thing. That's just noise. The real action, the stuff that actually matters, is in the structure that's being methodically built behind the scenes.
Okay, let's dive into that price frustration, because it's a huge deal. The source really makes it clear that for a lot of people, this isn't just some minor annoyance. It's confusing. I mean, it goes against everything you'd expect from a supposedly high-growth digital asset.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. It's like two different worlds colliding. On the left, you've got the typical retail mindset for crypto. You want the adrenaline rush, the hype, the chance for those quick explosive gains. But on the right, you have the institutional reality that our source proposes. They want boring. They need stable, consistent, and built for real, long-term use. The two are basically polar opposites.
So, this brings us to the big counter-argument. If XRP's purpose isn't those wild price swings, then what is its purpose? Well, the answer, according to this theory, is all about one word: liquidity. And it's so important to understand what this really means. You know, liquidity is just how easily you can buy or sell a massive amount of something without sending the price to the moon or crashing into the ground. If you're a bank trying to move billions of dollars, stable liquidity isn't just a nice-to-have. It is absolutely non-negotiable. Our source points to this quote from Greg Kidd, and this guy was one of the first 8 people working at Ripple. His point is incredibly clear. The actual usefulness of XRP as a bridge for money depends on how stable and reliable it is. It's not about the price tag. From this point of view, crazy volatility is a bug, not a feature. That boring stability, that's the whole point. And the source gives us a really powerful way to think about this, the oil analogy. Think about oil for a second. It's not sexy. You don't see it trending on social media, right? But it is the quiet, essential, neutral utility that makes the entire global economic engine run. The argument is that XRP is being set up to be the exact same thing, but for the movement of money. Okay, that's a nice theory, but where's the proof, right? Well, according to our source, the evidence is right there. If you just look at who's building the plumbing for this new financial system, the absolute titans of the old one. And we're talking about the biggest names in the game: BlackRock, JP Morgan, Fidelity. The key insight from the source here is that these giants don't chase hype, they build empires. When they get into a market, they're not speculating. They're laying down the foundational infrastructure for the next few decades. Their involvement signals a massive shift from hype to utility. And this is the prize they are all playing for: $5 trillion. That's roughly how much money moves through the old, clunky SWIFT system every single day. To handle even a tiny piece of that pie, a new system needs an unbelievably deep and stable ocean of liquidity. A volatile asset just won't cut it. But, having the technology and the liquidity, that's only 2/3 of the story. The source argues that the third, and maybe the most critical piece of the puzzle, is getting that official stamp of approval from the regulators.
And what you're seeing here isn't just a random collection of wins. This source presents this as a very deliberate, country-by-country march to build a fully compliant system. Getting a banking charter in the US, getting double FCA approval in the UK, these are not just headlines. They are the structural building blocks required for big institutional money to flow in with confidence.
And look, this push isn't just coming from the private sector. The source highlights that the pressure is coming from the very top, from people like the head of the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde.
The message being sent to the global banking system is loud and clear. This digital transition isn't a suggestion. It's happening, and it's happening now.
So, when you weave all these threads together, the liquidity, the institutional infrastructure, the regulatory groundwork, you get to the core idea of this whole theory, a concept we can call the price-last principle. And the logic, according to the source, unfolds in a very specific order. You can't skip a step. First, you establish the structure and get full regulatory compliance. Second, you build that massive, stable pool of liquidity. Third, you get the big institutions to actually use the system for its intended purpose. And only then, at the very end of all that work, does the price naturally follow the function. Price is the result, not the...
And this really boils it all down, doesn't it? It's about two different mindsets. On one side, you have the impatient investor, stressed out and glued to the daily charts. And on the other, you have the patient builder. The theory being presented is that this whole thing is designed to reward the person who has a deep understanding of the system being constructed, not the person just waiting for a rocket emoji. So that leaves us with a really big question to chew on, one that kind of wraps up this entire thesis. When we're talking about these huge, potentially world-changing technologies, what's actually more valuable in the end? Is it the passionate search for that next explosive breakthrough? Or is it the quiet, steady patience required to build something that's truly designed to last?